Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Friday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, Rob Pelinka, and JJ Redick meet the media on Thursday, and Pelinka opens with a surprise. We'll explain next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. If you're listening to the audio version, Andy, it could be Spotify. It could be Apple. It's where a lot of our traffic comes from. But a lot of people, Andy, tuning in on YouTube. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where over 36,000 subscribers are all hanging out, talking to each other, talking to us, leaving questions, leaving comments, Andy. And they are a Twitter, you might say, at the news from Thursday afternoon in the press conference with Rob Pelinka and JJ Redick Thursday afternoon in El Segundo. Some big news coming out of that, which we'll tell you about next. But first, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. I'm not even going to do the math to tell you what the return is on that. It's too big. I can't do it. All right, so Media Day is Monday, and as has become the tradition, Rob Pelinka and the coach, in this case JJ Redick, meet the media ahead of Media Day, and they opened with some news. Pelinka giving his sort of State of the Union, Andy, and then dropped a bomb. JJ Redick, already a year in, gets an extension.
That was news to seemingly everybody in that room. You could feel the energy, like a reaction of, wait, what? Because Rob said this very casually. He was going through DeAndre, like the offseason in its entirety, because he was presenting why he thought it was a very positive offseason, bringing in DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, obviously getting Luka Doncic signed to an extension, which was priority number one. He mentioned LeBron James opting into his deal and, having LeBron for at minimum one more season. But then he also said, and JJ Redick, his extension. And I'll put it this way. Well, I'll put it this way. There were two people sitting behind me in this room that, without revealing who they were, I would just say that they are in the position where if this had even been semi known amongst people in the media,
Joey Buss and Jay Moore.
It was not them. It was not them. Although I did actually talk a little bit with Joey Buss afterwards. Talked with him about the new venture that he and his brother, there was an announcement, just started up, him and Jesse, gave him a congratulations and just caught up a bit. But the two people behind me, I'll just say, I would figure for a variety of reasons would have been in the loop for this. Neither one of them had a clue and actually asked me if I knew, to which I said, not even an inkling that this was going to be the case. Like, when you combine the fact that JJ Redick was only one season, not just into his contract with the Lakers, a 4-year deal, but one season into his coaching career. And the fact that, let's just say, coaching has not been a particularly stable position with the Lakers. And the last time we saw a coach get an extension, it was Frank Vogel getting what you and I referred to as a fake extension. It was a 1-year deal that they ended up firing him on. They ended up eating the money on it anyway.
Well, you mentioned Frank. Like, every time like a news like this happens, I always picture Frank shooting on his TV Elvis style. Because it's like, dude, I want a title.
Are you kidding? Frank's doing great, man. He keeps getting paid millions of dollars to literally go anywhere other than the building and the company paying him that money.
No, I'd kill to be
Frank Vogel.
No,
he gets to keep the championship.
It's the American dream.
They didn't ask him to return it.
It's just, I always picture it's not totally apples to apples. I understand. But the dude's like, I want a title, and you guys wouldn't give me a real extension.
I would much prefer to be Frank Vogel. I get to keep the championship ring, and I get to keep all the money, and I don't even have to do a damn thing. Although now he's actually Jason Kidd's.
He's working again. Yeah.
He's one of Jason Kidd's assistants, flipping the dynamic from 2020 when Kidd was his lead assistant. Were I Frank Vogel, I'd be sitting on my ass doing nothing.
That is why we're smarter than NBA head coaches.
Horror.
But smarter. And so it's interesting. I think the news surprised obviously a lot of people, as you noted, but like not just in I didn't know that was a thing way, like, I didn't know they did that, but like he's only been there for a year, and it's not like he's only been there for a year and had a 2-year contract. Like he's going into a lame duck year. It was a 4-year deal. The Lakers had 3 more years to sit on this. Nobody was going to talk about an extension. Certainly not this year.
No.
Maybe extension talk for Redick. If they won another, let's say they won 50 games again this year and had a reasonable playoff run, whether that means going farther than last year or losing to a very good team in a very competitive series, extension talk might start next off season, but nobody was going to talk about it this year.
And JJ actually acknowledged that in being asked about this. He said, quote, "Rob and I, we have a lot of the same philosophies on life. And one of the words that we always talk about is gratitude. And so I think it just starts with a high level of gratitude to the Lakers, to Mark Walter, Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka, for having that confidence in me. And it's not lost on me, the sort of rarity of a first-time head coach getting an extension. Like I recognize how fortunate I am to be with an organization that supports me in that way." Rob was asked essentially, like, where did the urgency come from? Because even if they believed in JJ, and clearly they did, but there were no signs before that they didn't.
Correct.
There was no need for expediency in terms of just context. And Rob said, quote, "Confidence and belief. We think he's a special coach with a special voice that's really helping us to continue to define the culture of Lakers excellence, and which we just wanted to make a clear statement that this is what we believe in, what we're going to lean into, and what our players are going to mold into as we continue to develop the identity. I think having long-term planning is helpful as we build this team and go forward." 2 things in there jump out at me. A, just the idea that they are actually prioritizing this at all, because it has not been with the Lakers, I would say, since Phil Jackson. Like the idea that we want to establish this sort of longevity and culture specifically through a coach and actually meaning it. But also, I think it goes unsaid. Luka clearly likes JJ Redick, because they don't do this unless Luka, who also just got an extension, at minimum seems to enjoy being coached by JJ, because as much as they clearly believe in JJ, if already there were signs that you got to choose between one of the two, it's been nice knowing you, JJ.
Oh yeah, no question. And
clearly Luka likes him.
I think that's true. I think a couple of things jump out at me. First, it was one of the only answers Rob gave on Thursday that did not include the word optionality. Second, I think this is one of those deals where you look at it and the continuity that they're trying to build. And it's another, both a buzzword, but also what has become, I think, clearly a priority for the organization is trying to create some sense of continuity. Now, they struggle to do that with the roster, I think, in certain ways, because both by choice and by circumstance, they've had to do a lot of short-term deals. Even their big moves this offseason, DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, those guys, if they play to the level the Lakers hope that they will, could be difficult to bring back next year. I think everybody understands that. So it can be hard to build continuity. Obviously, the Lakers trying to keep at least some degree of flexibility as well. But signing Luka gives the prospective free agent, the prospective trade partner, the prospective whoever it might be, it provides another layer that provides those players a layer of certainty that Luka Doncic will be on this team for X number of years. The Lakers clearly want to create organizational continuity to go along with that, and I'll explain why that's important next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Skims. I am somebody who's very, very picky about underwear. I only wear boxer briefs. They've got to be like a certain tightness, but also a little bit of looseness there. It's like Goldilocks. They got to be just right. And you don't know it till you have them on. And when I heard that we at Locked On could try out some Skims underwear, my first thought was they make men's underwear. And the answer is yes, they do. And then my second thought is, am I actually going to like them? And the answer is, oh, hell yeah, I do. I tried both the 3-inch and the 5-inch boxer briefs, and they are both super comfortable. They're soft. They don't bunch up. They feel great between my skin and whatever pants I'm wearing. They look fantastic. And whether you're working out in them or just sitting around your house in your underwear, which you're allowed to do in your own home, damn it, it's like you're wearing nothing at all. They're just incredibly comfortable. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. And this is extremely important. Let them know we sent you. After you place an order, if you're going online, select podcast in the survey, then select our show, Locked On Lakers, in the drop-down menu that follows.
All right, so I you talk about Luka as like a draw for the Lakers, and the Lakers want him to be a draw. They expect him to be a draw, and it makes a difference for teams to be able to say, all right, if I go play with the Lakers, I know I'm going to be with Luka now for 3 more years or whatever it is, and the expectation is there's going to be another extension that follows. Somewhere any star that comes here over the next 5 years, can count on having a pretty good run with Luka. The Lakers also want to be able to show teams that they have organizational stability. If you come play here, you're going to play with Luka. You're going to be coached by JJ Redick. Hopefully, Andy, that is something that people go, cool. I like that idea. But at least you're going to have a front office that has stability, because Rob Pelinka was granted given an extension last year. It was the last year or early this summer. I don't remember, but
I don't remember. There's been a lot of extensions for Rob. So to be totally honest, I think
he just gives them to himself when he decides that he wants one. And so Pelinka, and I don't know, because we didn't, even the beat guys haven't quite gotten a number yet here on JJ's extension, but I suspect that if they don't line up identically, Redick's extension and Pelinka's extension run now concurrently. Those guys basically are now on the same timeline. That would be my guess. And so, obviously you want Redick to be a draw, but what you really want is for players to be able to say, okay, at least I know what I'm getting. I know what I'm getting. I'm going to be coaching. They're not going to be cycling through 14 coaches over the next 2 or 3 years. And even if it's not somebody perfect, it's somebody I can predict. And it's especially important for like the second tier guys, the role players and other stuff like that, because new coaches can mean a big shift in how players like that get used or prioritized and things like that. So it's that level of organizational continuity I think they're trying to create.
I think it also matters a lot with the impending sale of the Lakers. And this was Rob, it's not something JJ can speak on much, but Rob was asked about it and didn't get into too much detail. But between the fact that Rob is now on a longer term extension and JJ Redick is on an extension that does not happen without Mark Walter's blessing.
Sure.
Even if it's not something that was discussed in depth, and even if it's not an automatic sign that Mark Walter considers JJ Redick his forever coach, there's clearly some degree of approval there, because otherwise you're creating messiness if Mark Walter has serious reservations about JJ for whatever reason. But to your point, this now allows prospective free agents, maybe higher profile players that have some ability to force their next destination to know what they're going to get into. It also this was something I know you found interesting. It might allow JJ to relax a little bit in his approach. I actually asked JJ, because he talked a little bit about some of the things that he learned from his first year, and he didn't really get into too many specifics, but he talked about methodology and communication and all of that stuff. And one of the things I asked him was just, did you learn about pacing yourself through an entire season, like emotionally, spiritually, trying to figure out the proper times to change, but also the proper waiting period to let things play out? And this speaks to something I know in particular you've talked a lot about, which is JJ burning very intensely and that basketball psycho part of him.
You know, as intense as these guys are, you have to be able to create some level of balance, or it's like, it's not even that you necessarily can't get through a season, but you can't get through 10 of them.
Right. And part of the response that he gave me, he mentioned that, you know, he basically jumped straight from broadcasting to immediately getting hired to immediately figuring out your staff, all of a sudden dealing with a new roster, like, you know, his first time ever, and the whirlwind of experiencing this for the first time. And JJ's just competitive nature and the meticulousness of him and that intensity all kind of adding up over the course of the season. And then the last part of what he said to me was, quote, "There's a lot of stuff I learned, and some of that is finding the balance of my own sort of competitive edge with what the situation requires." I'll give you an example. And I told some of you guys after the season, like, if I'm on a game day, I'm not going to turn off. And I've got to have the ability when I come talk to you guys to turn off. And whether you are talking about some of the semantic-y type debate stuff that I've mentioned many times, I find amusing when JJ does, but sometimes I think it can be kind of pointlessly combative or tedious, or just the way JJ will get defensive at times when he feels like you are questioning his acumen or his inexperience, as opposed to sometimes you're just asking him a question. That to me seemed like an indication of him realizing on some level, dude, I just got to chill. And the good news is the intelligence that the organization, and I think Luka and LeBron all believe JJ has, that doesn't go away with him chilling. Like, the basketball knowledge doesn't go away. It just means it may manifest itself in ways that are frankly more healthy for JJ.
I think it is beyond his own personality.
He's an intense guy.
He's an intense guy. You know, you could tell sort of by how he played. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that JJ Redick wasn't a, supremely talented athlete and all these other things, but, undersized, guy, and, had to sort of shoot and move his way. It takes a lot of discipline and a lot of work and a lot of things. And it's not, especially to play as long as Redick did, at the level that he did, it just requires an intense amount of discipline, because the minute you slip at all in the thing that you're really good at, you're in trouble. So I think that naturally sets him up to be like, kind of a workaholic coach. And we've all seen the memes, and our friend Harrison Fagan just loves to do the Disneyland meme, the JJ meme where he's like, it's Rob is the Disneyland meme. The JJ is the working on, breaking down film everywhere he goes. Like, he's anywhere, and it's fun, but he was a first year coach, and there were a lot of questions, and there were a lot of people wondering whether or not if he, could do the job, but even if he just deserved it, like jumping the line and all these other things,
which he did. He jumped the line.
Question he did. And I think
he's not the first to do it. He won't be the last, but he did. And I think there's just there was an intense, I think, feeling from JJ to prove to people that this was not a stupid thing that the Lakers did, that he was not a gimmick coach, that he was not just some like podcaster, and that some of these unconventional hires that turn out to be kind of disasters that wasn't going to be him. And he won 50 games and under difficult circumstances, and there were some injuries, and there was a massive, couple massive, big trade where you move your starting point guard, the guy who was your starting point guard at the beginning of the year. Then you acquire Luka Doncic, and oh, by the way, his house burned down in the middle of the year. Like,
there was a lot going on. And while you can question some choices that he made in the postseason, overall, it was a pretty successful rookie year. And I
Agreed.
think the quality of the first year hopefully will give a little bit of a permission structure for himself to not have to do anything that feels performative to show people how hard he's working and how much he, quote unquote, deserves the job.
And also, too, I think just to accept some degree of imperfection on the court. And this is something I want to ask him the next opportunity. And I was sort of trying to ask him this, and I think I just wasn't direct enough about it. Just the idea of being able to accept what you can't control, because I think that is something that is difficult for somebody like JJ, who is both very smart and very much a perfectionist.
Yeah,
so
I would agree. They also, in addition to the Redick extension, which we'll talk more about kind of what we think JJ is going to do over the course of the season. I was listening to Jovan Buha after the podcast, on his podcast, summarizing his takes on what was going on with that press conference. And he mentioned that he tried to get some X's and O's out of JJ around these new players, and Redick wasn't biting. So
nope.
we'll have to wait and see what it looks like on the floor.
He did not commit, by the way. He was asked to a starting lineup. Remember last year heading into training camp on Zach Lowe's podcast, JJ named his starting five. This time around, he said he didn't see the same need to do it. He reminded that he did that, and then 8 games into the season, he changed the lineup, and then he changed it multiple times again. Yep. I think last year it was more self-evident. This year there's a little bit more going on, but either way, he didn't do it.
Yeah, and I think legitimately you need to see certain things before you can make a decision. A couple more interesting things that Rob said, both about the roster construction and, of course, about the team stars, LeBron James and Luka Doncic. We'll get to that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is in full swing. FanDuel's making sure you are ready for every kickoff with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers, you bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And I love how FanDuel fits however you want to bet, whether you're talking player props or a same game parlay or jumping into a game live as the action's unfolding. If you're somebody in particular who has a feel for how fourth quarters are going to shake out, you want to get ahead of those results, make things a little exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team IRL or just keeping an eye on that fantasy lineup. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
A couple interesting things, actually. We don't have to get into the details here, but we talked for Thursday's show. Wednesday's show. You did Thursday's show with Aaron Larsoul while I was out of town. But Wednesday's show, we went over a couple things on NBA Rank, the ESPN project. Lakers, it's another one where the Lakers have 2 guys in the top 10. Mm-hmm. So Luka Doncic and LeBron James. Luka at 3, LeBron at 8 in this one. So actually higher than he was in the Locked On rankings. The only team with 2 guys in the top 10, Lakers. Yep. So we'll talk about maybe, kind of what that might mean going forward as the preseason starts on Monday. But it is worth noting that the Lakers still have considerable star power at the top of their rotation. And of course, obviously a lot of platitudes about Luka, Andy, many of which we've kind of talked about in the show, things the Lakers have said over the course of, the press conference for extension and all that kind of stuff. Rob did mention he was impressed by Luka's leadership with Slovenia and expects that his voice will be louder with the Lakers this year.
Yeah, there's going to be more of a comfort level. It is in many ways Luka's franchise moving forward, and he seems to have completely wrapped his head around the trade happening. He's now in LA. He's now a Laker. Dallas can be much more in the rearview mirror. Also, JJ Redick expressed a lot of confidence that Luka's commitment to fitness this offseason is the new normal moving forward. I think some of the stuff we've talked about, the idea that Luka enjoys the effects of it and also just recognizes the importance of it. So again, we have to actually see this play out over the course of a whole season. But JJ was very emphatic in his belief that this is what you are going to see with Luka moving forward in his prime.
So from there, the other big topic in terms of the Lakers stars was LeBron James. And there's been obviously so much speculation over the course of the summer about where this relationship between LeBron and the Lakers is headed. I'm sorry, Rob talked a little bit about it at the Luka press conference and sort of answering questions about LeBron, but it was certainly very direct and clear in his statements in terms of the Lakers. We want LeBron to finish his career as a Laker. We obviously can't make him. He didn't say it that way, but we were respectful of his wishes and all these. But the Lakers made it very clear, given their choice, they would like LeBron to finish his career in LA. That there's a lot in between, making that happen and the sentiment, but it was at the very least, Rob didn't hedge on the idea. There was no, we'll see how it goes after this year. It's his last year. It's his, they made it clear, and then, we'll go on from here.
There was a lot of space, I thought Rob afforded in making it known they would like, as Rob put it, LeBron's story to finish with the Lakers. Yeah. And he thought that would, it's Rob. He thought
he wants to leave LeBron some optionality, though, to be able to choose what he wants to do.
Well, he wants to give LeBron optionality to choose his story.
Right.
And by the way, he made it clear LeBron has earned the right to make the choice with his story however he wants.
He's earned his optionality.
He has earned that optionality. It's funny, too, because, the myth making that, frankly, is a part of the Lakers ethos. We're making fun of this with Rob. This was very much a Kobe thing. It is very much a LeBron thing. It was a Magic thing. It was a Dr. Bus thing. It's something the Lakers have often been described as Camelot for a reason, but there was space offered by Rob in making it clear that they would love for the story to end with the Lakers, but not offering any outward pressure or the inkling that they would apply pressure or, frankly, a hard sell. And I know there will be people who take that as the Lakers being open to the idea of ending this story and moving forward more cleanly with Luka moving forward. There will be other people who just treat it as respect towards LeBron. I think in some respects, it's likely a bit of both, because it is easier to move forward in terms of the Luka era in some respects without LeBron, just in terms of the dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
It is harder in some respects, especially if LeBron maintains this level of play, to move forward without LeBron when it comes to the basketball, because, cap issues notwithstanding, LeBron's still playing at a really high level.
Well,
and he's hard to replace.
That's one of the things that I want to get into as we sort of break down the road, because this is why it was so important to reset the contract with LeBron to where the Lakers now have a say in sort of how this goes.
This has been a heavy talking point of mine for a year, taking a lot of crap for it, but I'm right.
And I think where, it is 100% fair to say the Lakers needed to regain some control of this, so that at the least, whatever decision they want to make, regardless of how hard it is, they at least have the ability to predict and make those choices themselves, as opposed to having to be reactive all the time to what LeBron wants to do. But I think so many people, and I'm not the only one, I'm not claiming here I'm on some island, but so many people, when the summer started, were like, well, that's it. He didn't give him an extension. LeBron is gone. LeBron is gone. If, he may not even make it to training camp and all this stuff. And my position has been pump the brakes on that from the beginning, including pump the brakes on this is LeBron's last year as a Laker. Because the basketball part of this is real tricky. And like, for long-term roster building, maybe you want to take that 50 million and put it somewhere else. Maybe, LeBron wants to play another year after this and, is willing to go from 50 to 30 or 50 to 30. Like all of these things are in question and play. But the one thing that isn't is, let's assume LeBron has a season that is within 10% of what he did last year. If it's 10% higher, he's in the top 5 MVP voting. If it's 10% lower, he's still a second or third team all NBA player. That is going to be really hard to replace.
It also means, too, by definition, he's still playing a lot of games because you have to play at least 65
Correct.
to qualify for the stuff in the first place. Also,
and by the way, it's worth noting, he's played more games in the last 2 years than a lot of the stars that people look at as potential replacements for him, which isn't to say that a younger player who might have a little bit of an injury history still wouldn't make more sense over the long term. But it is to say that the idea that LeBron, to me at least, has to be totally babied and like shepherded through a season in ways that like he's like Joel Embiid or Kawhi Leonard. I mean, it's just not the case. And so the Lakers, the Lakers are not going to let LeBron go lightly, because they aren't going to be able to take that money and find another second team all NBA player to apply it to.
I think they're in the perfect place right now with LeBron moving forward, in the sense that, like you said, they're not going to take the idea of him leaving lightly, because by definition, it's a big deal, because it's both LeBron and it's the level of talent that LeBron brings, and the level of leadership that LeBron brings, and all of that stuff. But they're also, I think, in a position where they don't have to be afraid of it. And whereas pre-Luka trade, I think they were deathly afraid of LeBron leaving. And I said that many times, that until Luka arrived, I think they were going to give LeBron those 1+1 deals in perpetuity until he was 55. I think they would have just keep doing it because they were terrified at the prospect of what do we do with ourselves without a star of LeBron's stature. They have that now.
It's not just without a star of LeBron's stature, but it's like
without a path, without anything.
There's just where do we find this other person? Like we don't want to be bad.
Right. JJ also, because LeBron's headspace is a common talking point. I'm sure he's going to be asked about this on media day, just how he feels about the season, relationship with the organization. Can you clarify some of what Rich Paul meant with the statement, accompanying your opt-in? But JJ said that he has talked with LeBron throughout the offseason, fairly frequently. They had a couple good in-person meetings, including one in the Hamptons, dinner at Sag Harbor. So nice flex, JJ. But he said, quote, "I came away from that thinking he's in a really great spot mentally, and know he's going to give us his absolute best." And that is the one thing, as much as I have maintained, I think there is tension right now between LeBron and the Lakers, if for no other reason than LeBron and Team Clutch seem to be going out of their way to allow for that perception, because they could just shut it down if they wanted to, and they haven't. I've never questioned that LeBron would not be a professional this year. It's the reason why you and I both said, once training camp opens, it's not going to be a holdout. There's not going to be tantrums. There's not going to be whatever. He's not wired that way. He is not wired to pull a Jimmy Butler. He will not do that
in his career. So
right. He doesn't have the luxury of pissing away season 23 because he's on a 50-win team that isn't totally of his liking.
Yes, 100%. So all in all, no huge surprises in this press conference.
Other than the extension.
But in terms of how they talked about Luka or LeBron or anything like that, a positive thing we'll see, everything's good at this time of year. Media day comes next week.
Unless you're with the Sixers.
Oh my God. Oof.
Jared McCain just tore his thumb. And, oh my God.
We are useless animals without our thumbs. Let me just tell you. Locked On Lakers on. So media day is Monday. Obviously, we'll be there, and with plenty to report. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 36,000 subscribers to the channel. We'll see everyone Monday. Have a great weekend.